Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and go over our homework that was sent home on Tuesday and just go through the problems one by one, and that way if you missed any you can see where we went wrong. So number one, we'll start here. The Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy is a famous building known for its tilt. The tilt increases 1 2500 millimeters each year, according to measurements. The number line shows the increase in the tower's tilt in 1 year. How many millimeters will the tower's tilt increase in 4 years? So we've talked before about how we break down problems, and for math we use cubes. So over to the side I'm going to write cubes. So C is circle the question. So my question is right here. How many millimeters will the tower tilt increase in 4 years? Okay, that's what we're looking for. So I've done the circle. I'm going to underline the keywords and the verbs. So let's go ahead and see what the verbs are and the keywords just to know what's going on in the problem. So we know that it's increasing. That's important. The tilt is increasing 125 millimeters each year according to measurements. And then this shows in 1 year how much it increased. So if it's increasing, we know the number is going to be getting larger. Now I can box in the important information. So we kind of read some of the important information right here. So 1 2500 of a millimeter each year, that's important because each year tells us, gives us a little bit of a clue of what's going on. And then we've got the number line right here, that's important. Okay. And then we also have in our question, what they're asking is how many millimeters will the tower's tilt increase in 4 years? Okay. So we boxed in our important information and we can eliminate the extra stuff. So this first sentence is a little bit wordy, so we don't have to look at it anymore. Right there, we can get rid of some of that. That way we're just looking at the important stuff. And now our strategy. So if we look at our number line, there's different ways that we can do this. We know that in 1 year, because it says right here, this number line shows us in 1 year how much it's increased. And it tells us in the problem too, 1 2500. So on my number line, if I look, I have 0 and then I have 1, okay? And then 2. So in the middle of 1 and 2 would be a half, so 1 1/2, okay? So if we were to not go all the way to 1 1/2, which is 1.5, and we were to break this into smaller sections, it would make sense that this would be 1 2500. So right here, that's 1 year. So we can go ahead and we can keep plotting the rest and do all 4 years to see where the number falls. So let's start with that. So if this is 1 year, let's see where it would fall on another year. So basically we're going to jump all the way over for, because we're jumping 1 whole and then 2500 each time for 4 times. So our strategy before we even get started, we can do the number line. And then also the operation is basically we have equal groups every time. We're looking for our total, so that's multiplication. So we can also check it by multiplying. So let's go ahead and jump 1 whole and 2500 and see where that leaves us. So if we jump all the way 1 whole, that's going to put us right above 2, right? Same spot. And another 2500 is going to just take us a little bit further. So that would be right there, our second jump. So now let's jump another whole. So we're going to jump a whole another hole. So we're going to go from 2 1/2 all the way up to 3 1/2. But now we saw the 2500, so we're just going to do another 2500. So that would be 3. And now I need to jump a whole another hole. So we're at 3 7500 basically. So I need to go all the way to 4 7500, but then I still have my 2500 I need to add on. So that would be 4. So that's putting us at 5, okay? If that doesn't make sense to you, let's go ahead and check by doing the math. So if we multiply these, we always put the number with the more digits on the top. not the smaller digit number, because then it won't work out. With multiplication and decimals, remember multiplication says no, they're a rebel, they like to bunny hop, okay? So we just pretend like the decimal is not there until the very end. So line up your 4-digit and your multiplication with the first number. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So now if I look up here, how many times did I have to hop to get to this decimal? I hopped once, twice, I found it, it's right there. So let's go ahead and hop 2 times down here. So my answer should be 5. Is that also what I got up here? It is. So A should have been my answer. Number 2, Joseph notices that a box of cookies costs $1.79. Joseph wants to buy 8 boxes of cookies for a class party. How much will he spend? Well, again, I always tell you to change the name if you want to, so we're going to make it Fluffy, just so we can picture it. Okay, so Fluffy. Let's put cubes on the side. Let's circle our question. We want to know how much he will spend. All right. I'm going to underline the important keywords and the verbs. So this is how much it costs. He wants to buy 8 boxes of cookies for a class party. Let's box in the important information. So the important information would be that a box of cookies costs $1.79. We need that number in there. We need cost in there. And we know that he wants to buy 8 boxes. So that's all important. We don't really have a lot to eliminate. We can eliminate cookies for class party or notices, wants to. But we have to have all the important information so we can see. Our strategy here is, again, we want to know how much he will spend. So what's the total amount he's going to spend? Each box of cookies cost the same amount, $1.79. We have 8 boxes. So I have equal groups to put together. That's, again, multiplication. So my number is $1.79 and 8. The longer digit number is going to go on top. So this one has 1, 2, 3. That one has 1. So the $1.79 is going to go on top. Okay? Now we multiply everything by the 8 on the top. So what is 8 times 9? 72. And then we have 8 times 7, which is 56, plus the 7, which is, make sure I'm doing this right. Times 7 is 56, plus the 7 would be the 4, so it would be 3. There you go, so you have 63. And then we have the 8 times the 1, which is 8, plus the 6, which is 14. Okay? Now we need to see how many times we had to hop. So we only had to hop on the $1.79. We had to go 1, 2, and we found our decimal. So over here, we need to do the same thing, 1, 2. So my answer should be $14.32. Okay, number 3. Kendrick is training for a race. He ran 1 72/100 mile on the treadmill on Friday morning, as shown in the model. So this represents one hole. So as you can see, the whole thing is shaded in. And then we have 7 tens. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's my 7 tens. And then I have 2 little pieces of 100. So this is our representation right here. There's my 7 tenths. And right here is my 2 hundredths. Kendrick ran the same distance again on Friday night. Which method could not be used to calculate the number of miles Kendrick ran on Friday? So he ran twice on Friday. He ran in the morning, it looks like, and then he ran at night, and he ran the same amount of time. So they have different ways of going ahead and multiplying this out. I think it's easiest to do it this way. We know what we're doing. We have equal groups again. He ran the same amount Friday morning and Friday night. So that's 2 times he ran the same amount morning and night. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply to find my answer. Again, we line up the digits. We do not line up decimals in multiplication. For addition and subtraction, we do. And for division, we just bring it up. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Okay? So I'm going to be looking for this answer in each of these. So if we want to go ahead and multiply these out, we'll find the one that doesn't make sense. So 1 plus 0 and 72 hundredths, you're just adding in the whole. So that would be 1 and 72 hundredths. And then we're multiplying it by 2, because that's what it means when it's next to a parenthesis, so times 2. Well, that's what I just did here. So obviously this answer is going to be 3 and 44 hundredths. So we need to make sure we know what the question's asking too, because if we're not paying attention, we'll be like, oh, that's the right answer, and we'll just pick it. The question is asking which method could not be used to calculate the number of miles LeKendrick ran on Friday. So we have to solve all of these to find which one's wrong, which is why I found out the answer, and now we're going to check them. So now this one, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 2 times 72 hundredths. So I can go ahead and do that. I have 4, 14, and then I have 1. Decimal hop 2 times. So if I add 1 and 44 hundredths to 2, my 2 wholes plus 1 whole is 3. So it's 3 and 44 hundredths again. That's right. And then here I'm multiplying 2 times 1 and 72 hundredths. So it would be, well, that's the same thing I did here and here. So I should already know my answer, which is that. So that's also going to be this. And it's just different ways that they're looking at this. They can say they multiplied it 2 times the 1 whole, and then 2 times the 72 hundredths. That's what they're saying here. But yeah, every single one makes sense. It's just a different way of writing it out using PEMDAS. So down here, let's figure out this last one. Hopefully this is the one that's wrong. We're going to do 0 and 1/10 times 2, which is 2 and 0. And there we go. And then over here, we just figured that out. So I'm just going to go ahead. 72 hundredths times 2 was this. So we're going to add those together. When we add, we line up our decimals. That is not the right answer. So we found the one that was wrong, and it should have been letter D. Okay, according to Kaylee's rain gauge, 2 and 8/10 inches rain fell each day for 3 days as shown. So each day she had this much of rain that fell. So it says, which method could Kaylee use to calculate the total rainfall? So we have 3 days it's happening, and each day it's 2 and 8/10 inches. So let's go ahead and figure out what the answer is, because I think that's the easiest way to do it. So if we do 2 and 8/10 times 3, 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Hopped 1 time, so I'm going to hop it 1 time. So I'm looking for something like that. Let's see if they make sense though. We have 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 8. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because if we did 3 times the 2, but the 8 is not in the right place value. So I already know that there's no way that could be right. But if I wanted to go ahead and solve it, it would be 5, because 3 plus 2 is 5, and then 8 plus 3 is 11, so that'd be 16. So that can't be right. Now we're doing the 3 times 2, so that's 6. And then the 3 times 8/10. So if I did 8/10 times 3, it would be 24. Bring it over 1 time because I hopped 1 time. So if I add 2 and 4/10 plus the 6, remember we can add a 0.0 on the end if we want. That gives us 8.4, which we knew was going to be our answer, so this one's looking pretty good. And if we look up here, it makes sense because we had 3 days each with 2 inches for our hole, so they did 3 times 2. But then we also had those 3 days that 8/10, so then they just added and multiplied 3 again times 8/10, and that should have given you the answer. Over here, the rest of them don't really make a lot of sense. So we don't really have anywhere in this problem where we're talking about 2/10. So if we multiply that out, that would just give us 6/10 plus 24. And that would give us 24 and 6/10, which doesn't make any sense. I'd be wrong. And then that's 12, and we're already way over. But we can also look up here and kind of add them up. There's multiple ways you can do it, but our answer should have been G. Okay, next one. Mrs. Perkins buys 1 8/10 pounds of ground beef to make tacos. Ground beef costs $4.75 per pound. How much does Miss Perkins spend for ground beef? Well, if I do cubes, circle my question. Okay. Underline my verbs and my important information. It's costing. How much does she spend? I'm going to box the important information. So this is how much it costs per pound. And then we want to buy that many pounds. So each pound costs the same thing. We're looking for a total. So if we're looking for a total and we have equal groups to put together, multiplication. So let's go ahead and do our $4.75. It has more digits, so I'm going to write that on the top. Times, remember, our decimals do not line up for multiplication. I'll try to write small so you can see it, but 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 7 is 56, plus the 4 is 60. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 6 is 38. So now I have multiplied everything on the top by my 8. I am done with it. I can cross it out and say goodbye, hold its place by putting a 0. Now 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 7 is 7, and 1 times 4 is 4, and I can add those up. It's really hard to see, so I'm going to just write it over here. So I'm adding these. We have 0, 5, and then we have 15, 8 plus 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're not done because don't forget about the decimals. I had to hop 1, 2 on this one and 1 on this one, so it's 3 all together. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So my answer should have been $8.55, A. Very last one. June purchases 14 sacks of flour for her bakery. Each sack of flour costs $2.47. How much does June spend for flour? Again, we have equal groups because each sack is costing the same thing. We're trying to put it together to find the total. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. This one has more digits. Okay. Okay. So 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. And then we're going to cross out the 4 because we multiplied everything on the top by the 4. I put a 0, and I can cross these out so I don't get confused. Now let's go on to the next number because this number I have to multiply everything on the top by this. So 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. And I'm going to add it up. 8, 15, 10, 14, 3. And now I'm going to hop over 1, 2 times for that. And I'm going to go 1, 2, So my answer should have been $34.58.